This is the Linear Algebra Lectures video series. You can find more information about this video as well as a link to the written textbook in the description below. Stick around to the end of the video to learn more about this video series and the associated teaching and learning tools I've created for it. Lecture 41, Diagonalization of Symmetric Matrices. Our objectives for this lecture are to find an orthogonal diagonalization of a symmetric matrix and use an orthogonal diagonalization to multiply a power of a matrix by a vector. Let's recall some definitions from our earlier lectures. A square matrix A is symmetric if it's equal to its transpose. And a square matrix A is diagonalizable if we can write it as A equals P times D times P inverse for some invertible matrix P and some diagonal matrix D. And a square matrix U is orthogonal if its columns form an orthonormal set. And if U is an orthogonal matrix, then U inverse is equal to U transpose. Before we get into the definition of orthogonal diagonalization, we're going to prove this theorem about symmetric matrices. If A is a symmetric matrix, then any two eigenvectors of A from different eigenspaces are orthogonal. So what we're saying here is that if V1 and V2 are eigenvectors of this square symmetric matrix A that correspond to different eigenvalues, lambda 1 and lambda 2 respectively, then V1 and V2 have to be orthogonal. So our goal here is to prove that V1 dot V2 is equal to 0. So to prove this, we're going to start out by looking at lambda 1 times v1 dot v2. We can rewrite this as lambda 1 v1 transpose times v2 by the definition of inner product. And then we can replace lambda 1 v1 by a v1 because v1 is an eigenvector corresponding to that eigenvalue lambda 1. When we take the transpose of a product, we can distribute the transpose, but we have to reverse the order of the multiplication. So a v1 parentheses transpose is v1 transpose A transpose. But A is a symmetric matrix, so A transpose is just A. And then A v2 is the same as lambda 2 v2 because v2 is an eigenvector for A. Next, v1 transpose times lambda 2 v2 is v1 dot lambda 2 v2 by the definition of inner product. And then finally, we can pull out the lambda 2 to write that as lambda 2 times v1 dot v2. So we've proved that lambda 1 times v1 dot v2 is equal to lambda 2 times v1 dot v2. And we can subtract from both sides to rewrite this as parentheses lambda 1 minus lambda 2 times v1 dot v2 equals 0. So those are two real numbers multiplied together giving us 0. So one of those two real numbers has to be 0. But lambda 1 and lambda 2 were assumed to be distinct eigenvalues. So lambda 1 is not equal to lambda 2. And that means that lambda 1 minus lambda 2 can't be equal to 0. So the only possibility is that v1 dot v2 is equal to 0, which is what we were trying to prove, and so that proves the theorem. Now, a square matrix A is orthogonally diagonalizable if there exists an orthogonal matrix P and a diagonal matrix D such that A equals P times D times P inverse. And because P is an orthogonal matrix in this case, P inverse is the same as P transpose. So we can also write this as A equals P D P transpose. Now, if A happens to be an orthogonally diagonalizable matrix, we want to look at what happens when we take the transpose of A. Well, that's P D P transpose all transposed. And remember that when we take the transpose of a product, we can distribute the transpose, but we have to reverse the order of the multiplication. So in this case, we get P transpose transpose, D transpose, P transpose. P transpose transpose is just P. D is a diagonal matrix, so it must be a symmetric matrix, so D transpose is just D. And so we get P, D, P transpose again, which is just A. So this tells us that any orthogonally diagonalizable matrix A must, in fact, be symmetric. And the remarkable fact is that that happens in the other direction as well. The symmetric matrix theorem says that an n by n matrix A is orthogonally diagonalizable if and only if A is symmetric. So we just showed why it's true that if A is orthogonally diagonalizable, then it must be symmetric. And it's true, but much harder to prove, that if A is symmetric, then it must be orthogonally diagonalizable. You can see the details of that proof in lecture 41b. But for now, we'll just assume that this theorem is true. So here's an outline for finding an orthogonal diagonalization of a matrix. It's similar to the outline for diagonalizing a matrix that we learned back in lecture 36. We start by finding the eigenvalues of our matrix A. We find a basis for each eigenspace. But because we're looking for an orthogonal matrix P, not just an invertible matrix P, we need to find an orthonormal basis for each of those eigenspaces. So we'll use Graham-Schmidt to do that. And then finally, we'll construct the matrices P and D. The columns of P will be the orthonormal bases for the eigenspaces that we found in step 3, and then the diagonal entries of the matrix D will be the corresponding eigenvalues. Why does this work? For any square matrix A, we could always do steps 1, 2, and 3. We could always apply Gram-Schmidt to the bases for the eigenspaces that we get, but that would not necessarily give us a full orthonormal basis for the space Rn. The reason why we can assemble the individual orthonormal bases for eigenspaces for a symmetric matrix A is because we proved that those separate eigenspaces are all orthogonal to each other. Okay, let's look at an example. So here we have a 3x3 matrix A, and we're asked to find an orthogonal diagonalization for A. Now, such a thing is only going to exist if A is symmetric. So we check real quick and see that A is in fact a symmetric matrix. A equals A transpose. And so we can proceed. So using Wolfram, we use the eigensystem command to find the eigenvalues and corresponding eigenvectors for this matrix. We have two eigenvalues, lambda 1 equals 2, that corresponds to two different eigenvectors, and then lambda 2 equals negative 1, that corresponds to a single eigenvector here. So we'll call those vectors v1, v2, and v3, as you see here. And now what we need is an orthonormal basis for each of these eigenspaces. So let's focus on the first eigenspace. We've got two vectors, v1 and v2. What do we need? We need a basis that contains two vectors that are orthogonal to each other and are both unit vectors. We can look and see that v1 and v2 are already orthogonal to each other, just coincidentally, we got lucky, but they're not unit vectors. v1 in particular is not a unit vector, so we'll have to normalize v1. And then v3, that basis only has one vector in it, so there's no need to check for orthogonality, there's only one vector, but again, that vector is not a unit vector, so we'll have to normalize that one as well. So all we need to do in this case is normalize all those vectors that we got. That gives us u1, u2, and u3, and those three vectors form an orthonormal basis for R3. We use those three vectors as the three columns for our matrix P, and the corresponding eigenvalues down the diagonal of our diagonal matrix D. So the original matrix A will equal P times D times P inverse, and P inverse is the same as P transpose because P is an orthogonal matrix. Let's do another example. So again, we have a symmetric matrix B, and we want to find an orthogonal diagonalization of B. So again, we use technology. We'll type our matrix into Wolfram, and then we will use the eigensystem command. Again, we find that we have two eigenvalues, negative 3 and positive 3. Negative 3 corresponds to one eigenvector, v1, and 3 corresponds to two eigenvectors, which I'll call v2 and v3. So the set containing v1 is a basis for the lambda equals negative 3 eigenspace, and the set containing v2 and v3 is a basis for the lambda equals 3 eigenspace. But we don't just need a basis, we need an orthonormal basis for each of those spaces. The first basis only has one vector in it, so all we need to do is normalize that single vector. But for the second basis, those two vectors are not orthogonal. We can take the dot product, we don't get 0, and so we need to apply Gram-Schmidt to that second basis. Again, we can use Wolfram to do this for us. We need to normalize v1 to get the vector that we'll call u1. So u1 is now a unit vector and still a basis for the first eigenspace. And then we'll use the orthogonalize command. Remember, that's the command in Wolfram to apply Gram-Schmidt. So that'll give us u2 and u3, which is a basis for the second eigenspace. And because these two eigenspaces are orthogonal to each other, we can assemble them into a matrix that we'll call P. And so the columns of P are the three vectors from the orthonormal bases that we found, and then D is the diagonal matrix whose diagonal entries are the corresponding eigenvalues. Now we saw in lecture 35 that it's relatively easy to compute powers of a square matrix times a vector when that matrix is diagonalizable. But when the matrix is orthogonally diagonalizable, it's even easier. So we have this formula that we can use for computing a to the k times x when A happens to be an orthogonally diagonalizable matrix. We'll let u1 through un be the columns of the orthogonal matrix P, and lambda 1 through lambda n be the corresponding eigenvalues for those eigenvectors. And so all we need to do is take x dot ui times lambda I to the k times the vector ui and add up the results. Now that list of eigenvalues might have repeats. As we saw in the previous couple of examples, those eigenvalues might have multiplicity higher than 1. So if you have a repeat in your list of eigenvalues, you include that repeat. Now let's understand why this formula works. In lecture 39, we learned that the coordinates of a vector in an orthonormal basis are easy to compute. If script b equals u1 through un is an orthonormal basis for Rn, then the entries of the coordinate vector of x relative to the basis b are just x dotted with ui. And that just means that x is equal to the sum of those coordinates times the u vectors. So now a to the k times x is a to the k times that sum. We can distribute the a to the k to get the sum of x dot ui times a to the k ui. But each vector ui is an eigenvector corresponding to the eigenvalue lambda I, so a to the k times ui is just lambda I to the k times ui. And so that's the formula that we have. Let's apply it. Let's look back at the same matrix A that we talked about back in example 1, and we have the vector x equaling 2, negative 3, 4, and we want to compute a to the 5th times x. So the formula says that a to the 5th times x is the sum, as I goes from 1 to 3, because we've got a 3 by 3 matrix with 3 eigenvectors. We sum up x dot ui times lambda I to the 5th, because it's the 5th power that we're computing, times ui. And when we expand out that sum, we get x dot u1 times lambda 1 to the 5th times u1, x dot u2 times lambda 2 to the 5th times u2, plus x dot u3, lambda 3 to the 5th times u3. And so the u's are the columns of the matrix P that we computed back in example 1. The lambdas are the corresponding eigenvalues, again from example 1, and x here is the vector that we were given, 2, negative 3, 4. So now in Wolfram, we type in those 3 vectors from example 1, the given vector x, and we compute the sum. And we've seen before how Wolfram isn't great at simplifying expressions with square roots automatically, so we can force it to simplify that by using the simplify command, and we get our expression below. Now this might seem a lot of work. You might be wondering, why didn't we just multiply a times this vector 5 times? That just seems easier. But all of the computations here, once we have our orthogonal diagonalization, all we are doing is doing arithmetic and dot products. And computationally, that is a lot faster than multiplying a matrix repeatedly, especially if that matrix is very large. Keep in mind that we ultimately want to apply these ideas to very large matrices and presumably very large powers. So even though it might seem like a waste of time to do all this work for this small example, we can imagine that for a larger example, this would be a big time saver. Now, the symmetric matrix theorem tells us a lot about symmetric matrices, but not every matrix is symmetric. And in fact, many square matrices aren't diagonalizable at all, much less orthogonally diagonalizable. Well, we can use these facts that we've learned about symmetric matrices to decompose any matrix, even non-square matrices, in a way that has many applications. That's called the singular value decomposition, and that's what we're going to talk about in lecture 42. Thanks for watching this video lecture. You can find links to the other videos in this series and to the written textbook in the description below. If you're an instructor, you can contact me for more information about the over 300 online linear algebra homework problems that I've created for the free My Open Math platform.